Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's 6:02 p.m. and I would like to bring call the meeting to order. I'd like to ask is there a motion to adopt the minutes from our March 16th, 2024 meeting?
Motion to adopt.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second,
And who was at the second, the motion?
Cyree.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, and also we'd like to adopt the proposed agenda for tonight's meeting, 5/8/24. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Dr. Bell, we need to make sure that everybody's in agreement to adopt the minutes first. So if anybody is opposed to the minutes, please raise your emoji hand. Otherwise, we'll assume that it's all approved. Okay, so that was accepted unanimously.
Okay.
And now move on to the next.
The motion, is there a motion to adopt the proposed agenda for tonight's meeting, 5/8?
I make
So
a
moved.
motion to adopt the proposed agenda for tonight.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you. Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Right, and so we can move on with our agenda. Do we have any public comment for this evening? I don't believe so. Okay, so if there's no public comment, I'm going to move to board member comments, and I will start with Ms. Gallagher.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Good. All right, awesome. Thank you. So it is Teacher Appreciation Week this week, in case you all didn't know. So I want to start with some appreciation for all of our teachers in FCPS, those that serve on the Racial Equity Committee, and all of those teachers who are supporting our students every day. I want to share just a little bit about where we as a board are in our budget process. You all might be hearing a lot about the budget and what's happening. And so just want to take a minute or two to tell you a bit about where we are. So Dr. Dyson, who I know is joining us tonight, recommended a budget to the Board of Education, and we adopted that budget. And I think maybe made some very minor tweaks, and we submitted that budget to the county executive and county council, and heard back mid-April that we were facing about a $48.9 million shortfall in the budget we requested versus what the county is proposing to give to FCPS for next school year. And so the board has now received sort of our final numbers, and we are at a stage where we are in discussion about the various aspects of where we need to make some adjustments in the budget. And so we had a board meeting last week, May 1st, and our next board meeting will be next Wednesday, May 15th, and we'll really start to make some decisions probably during the May 15th meeting, and then continue into our June meetings. We have to have a balanced budget to return back to the county by the end of June. So that will be the focus for the Board of Ed for the next couple of meetings until we get to the point that we no longer have this short. So we, as the Board of Ed, requested a lot of information from Dr. Dyson and from our fiscal service staff around just a lot of different areas that we should be considering. And so just want to reiterate that no decisions have been made at this point, but we'll be discussing those starting next week. And then my final comment, I just want to give, I know we'll be talking a bit about the Racial Equity Committee Forum that happened at the end of April, but just really want to give a shout out to Dr. Bell and Ms. Hicks Brown and Dr. Harris and Dr. Artis and Mr. Murphy for all of the effort that you all put in to make that forum happen. I thought the presentation that you all gave during the forum was really illuminating and helpful, I think, for the community members that attended. And thank you to all of the Racial Equity Committee members who were able to attend that forum as well. So I think that's all I have for tonight, and I will hand it back to Dr. Bell.
Thank you. Is Brooke here? I don't think Brooke is on the call this evening. So I'm going to move to senior staff comment, and I'll start with Mr. Murphy.
Good evening, everyone. Just a couple of things. Building off of what Ms. Gallagher just shared, also wanted to extend appreciation for the leadership and those of you who supported the forum a couple of weeks ago. As Ms. Gallagher indicated, we hopefully shared some information that is helpful to the community. From my perspective in the curriculum department, we shared some information about how we do connect Policy 117 to the work of curriculum, and in particular, how curriculum and instructional materials are evaluated and selected through a lens of equity. So really encourage you, if you weren't able to be there, to check out the slides from that event. They are posted, and we hope they serve as a valuable resource. In addition, we also shared some information about the new high school course, the Black and African American Studies course, and some enrollment trends, and just really excited about the future of electives such as that one throughout the district. Lastly, I wanted to just share that at the board's Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting on June 12th, one of the agenda items will be another follow-up about how we approach instructional equity within the curriculum, in particular English language arts and mathematics. So we'll be sharing with the Curriculum and Instruction Committee at that meeting on June 12th some of the efforts that are underway right now and into the summer to continue to elevate instructional equity, not only in our curriculum materials, but also in day-to-day instruction. So that's it for me for this evening for now. And I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Bell.
Thank you. We always look forward to your meetings, Mr. Murphy. Dr. Harris, would you like to share senior staff comments?
Sure. Yes. Good evening, everyone. And I echo the previous comments that were made by Ms. Gallagher and Mr. Murphy regarding the community forum. If anything, what it gave staff an opportunity to do was to really highlight a lot of the amazing work that FCPS staff does to promote the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also mitigate against hate, bias, and racism. And then also, as I reflected on that presentation, I also reflected on the collaborative work of the Racial Equity Committee. If I'm not mistaken, this is the last meeting of the year. Is that right?
Yes.
And so I just really want to thank the Racial Equity Committee for your collaborative work throughout this year. I believe that this committee has really accomplished a lot and learned a lot by way of some of the work that's happening in FCPS regarding equity and our work with anti-racism and those things. And so appreciative of the student engagement on the Racial Equity Committee, because from the beginning up to this point, you really have provided valuable information and feedback that really has helped to guide our work in FCPS. So I wanted to share that piece. By way of board meetings, do want to highlight, and I shared this at the community forum, that on May 15th at the board's work session, the Equity Climate Survey will be presented. Now that's at the meeting at 3:00 p.m. And so Insight Education Group, our consulting group, will be in person to present the findings from that survey. And if those documents will be posted on board docs closer to that date. And if you're not able to attend that meeting, I'm hopeful that one of the first things that we can do for our first meeting for the next school year is to really unpack those results and then talk about our subsequent actions and next steps following that. So looking forward to that. Just by way of celebration, on this past Thursday, May the 2nd, the Equity Department was able to support a community event which honored FCPS graduating seniors of African descent who earned a 3.75 GPA or higher. And there were approximately 250 FCPS seniors from all of our 10 comprehensive high schools, from Heather Ridge, as well as our remote virtual program, who received this award. They received the medallion, they received the certificate, and it was an evening public program that was celebrated by so many. So we appreciate the National Pan-Hellenic Council of the Greater Frederick area for sponsoring this and allowing us to partner with them. And we actually have, I know, at least two of our Racial Equity Committee members who were there to receive awards, Chidalu and Fasayo. And so we congratulate them as well as the others who were recognized on that day. So those are the two things. I am looking forward to Dr. Dyson sharing with us this evening. We are grateful that she's able to carve out just a little bit of time to be with us tonight to share some of the questions that you all have sent in. I do know Dr. Dyson has an engagement and will have to log off at 7 o'clock. Nonetheless, with the many late nights that Dr. Dyson has and long days, I'm so grateful that she's able to spend some time with us this evening. So those are my comments. Dr. Bell, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Dr. Dyson, it is a pleasure to have you with us this evening. And as you know, the committee has put together some questions for you. So I guess I will start the Q&A. And then we can move forward. We'll ask the members of the committee to ask questions. Just raise your hand. As long as you are a committee member, you will be able to answer. There are some public members of the public who are here who will not be able to ask questions as they are not part of the committee. Dr. Harris, do you want to say something before I move forward?
Yeah, no, I know we have the presentation, but there are no slides necessarily for Dr. Dyson. So I'm wondering if they can come down just for a second so that we all can see one another and Dr. Dyson can see who's here as well.
Awesome. Okay, Dr. Dyson. The first question that I have is regarding how we are moving forward our plan to hire in FCPS, hire and retain administrators of color in the school system here in Frederick. Are we working on a plan, or kind of where are we with that?
Good evening, and thank you for the question, Dr. Bell. First, let me just say it's a pleasure to be with all of you. I feel like I haven't been in front of this group. I wish we were in person so I could, shake your hand and really talk to you. So thank you for the question. Since I've been here, we did a reimagining of HR. One of the goals we had was really to focus on recruitment efforts generally, but more specifically to bring more staff here who mirror our demographics, our students, and especially our students of color. And in order to do that, we first had to look at where we were with HR. We had one recruiter who was 11 months. And so we sought to really expand those recruitment efforts. We were able to hire a teacher of color from Urbana Elementary late December to add to the team. So we've been able to increase our efforts at HBCUs. We've had virtual job fairs to make it easier for those who are interested but can't get here, those who don't live in the area. We've also we've added the exit survey, which allows us to really dig into the reasons why some of our teachers of color or staff of color may leave the system in a spirit of continuous improvement. And one of the biggest things we've done this year is partnered HR with the Equity and Organizational Development Department. They've had several sort of anti-bias, implicit bias in hiring sessions, and I think it's been really great. I've read all of them. As Dr. Sergo and I have items together, I've had access to all of the slides, and it's really talking about how do we reduce the bias in our hiring, whether it's for people of color or people who are different. And I think it's been productive. I've seen a different result. We've seen more people of color applying, and we've changed the screening process. So there's not an opportunity to screen people out. If you meet certain criteria for jobs, then you're going to get an opportunity to interview for a job that you qualify for. And finally, I will say one thing, and we're still working on this bank of interview questions, but we've sort of moved away from a non-structured interview process to a structured interview process, which gives equal footing, equal playing field to every candidate that comes before the team. So the initial interview has the same questions for that job vacancy as it does for everyone else. So no one is treated different or asked different questions in that initial interview. And I think that also allows access and opportunity for our teachers of color, our staff of color who are interested in being here. And quite frankly, we need people here, even though we're going through, a major time in terms of our budget. There are content-specific needs that we have, and we still need support staff. We still need transportation staff. And so I'm really proud of the efforts. It's a work in progress, as you know, the equity journey is, but we've made some tangible steps to ensure that we are inviting, and that once they get here, we give them a sense of belonging. I do have some other goals of how we could use some of our community organizations to partner with our teachers of color and our staff of color when they come in as another tool to keep them here. And I'm happy to come back and talk about that another time.
Thank you so much. Do I have any members of the committee who would like to ask Dr. Dyson a question at this time? Please just raise your hand.
I can't find the raise hand feature, so I'm just going to raise my physical hand. I do have a list of questions that I had drafted, but I think just to add on, Dr. Dyson, and I'm just thinking forward to next year's Racial Equity Committee. I'm sure there will be new members that are joining that probably have similar questions to, just in terms of hiring, FCPS hiring and hiring educators of color. Is it possible to get this information that you've just shared, the strategy, the framework that you just outlined in some type of document? Because I'm sure that, whoever does join the committee for next school year probably has similar questions. And I think if we can get ahead of that to say, while they're joining, that this is the work that's in progress. These are some of the tangible actions that we've taken in this direction, some of the positives and metrics. And just, to be very honest, just such a greater opportunity lies ahead. I think it'll be a really great step for us to get ahead for next year's committee.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's several other documents that we can share. I know that there was the diversity plan that was shared at the forum, but we also have a diversity in hiring report that we have to give the state every year. And it was presented to the board, so it's available to the public. We can make sure I can share that with Dr. Bell and make sure it gets to the team, because in that report lies research and strategy. And so I think it's a nice nexus to the questions that are being asked, and it holds us accountable to the work that we need to do. But know that this is not just, a question that you're asking, but people are asking it across the state, and the state is expecting us to do something about it and to have a strategy.
And
so absolutely.
Yeah, I did just drop in the chat the hiring practices and diversity report. And so to give you a direct link and access to that.
Thank you. There's always work to be done. And another challenge for us, and even as we face this, budget challenge, we're competing with, everybody's competing for a diverse candidate pool across the state, and some pay more than others. And so we've really tried to rebrand FCPS. So we have videos that have been created that talk about, that welcome staff here, but also some that sort of share a little bit of FCPS. We can make sure you have those too, because it really talks about why this is a good place to live and work. And some of that is not just about the compensation, but it's also about the wonderful benefits we have, the support systems that we have through Rise and Thrive, and other strategies we have that are non-compensation, non-salary, but they still are competitive with our others. I'll just say the health benefits are way better than I had in Montgomery County Public Schools. And so we have to do better at elevating some of the other benefits to working in FCPS other than that base salary. And for tenured teachers, we do offer, year for year when they come. So we do have other benefits outside of salary that we've been trying to rebrand and offer to all candidates, but certainly targeting our candidates of color.
Thank you. Next question.
I'll go. Hi, it's nice to meet you. I am Meredith Nichols and I teach at Tuscarora High. My question is, we've made a lot of work towards 117. Do you anticipate there being issues? Like, I'm just worried about the budget and how it may actually affect our equity work. That's kind of my question.
First, I think it's important for you to know, I mean, for those of you who haven't, been around me when I first entered FCPS, one of my core values is equity. And for me and this district, equity is at the heart of what we do. So if you think about a graphic organizer and at the center is FCPS and equity, it's linked. There's no way to separate that. And so as we make recommendations for the board, we always think about that equity piece. Who will it benefit? Who will it hurt? How do we mitigate the unintended consequences? And so I don't foresee there being a stop in the equity work. It may look different because our resources may be different, but we have to do that work. When we think about the needs of our special education students, our students of color, our students who are receiving free and reduced meals, our students who are part of an ALICE family, when you put in this Western Hemisphere, if you put those two things together just in Frederick County, it's over 60% of our population and our families. So that's not an option. We may have to, find new partners, think about new ways. I mean, I thought about the other day, I was talking to Mr. Bass about something, and I mentioned the No Place for Hate work, and that, the Anti-Defamation League, and how, in my mind, that's a good partner with the work you're already doing to strengthen the efforts that you're making around 117. And so I don't foresee that work stopping. We have to serve our students. It just may look different.
Thank you. Next question. Just jump right in, you all.
Don't be shy.
Katie.
Hi, good evening. It's so nice to meet you. I'm Katie Erickson, and I am a first grade teacher at Hillcrest Elementary School. And along the lines of what Meredith was asking, I was wondering if there might be a way, and I know Dr. Harris and Dr. Artist have mentioned this too, about restructuring or kind of like repurposing how we utilize our equity representatives within the school, especially with such difficult times in terms of the budget, like how we can support more and maybe think about ways in which like we can be just more utilized within the school, and maybe have more of like a succinct role so that we could help provide those supports accordingly. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I would support those efforts for sure.
And I can add to that, Katie. So one of the things that we realized through our equity climate survey was the benefit and the value of our school-based equity representatives. And so one of the things that we have done as we've been planning for next year is increased the number of meetings that we have with our equity reps, which each of those meetings include training. And then we've outlined some very specific roles and responsibilities that we'll be sharing with school-based administrators about the benefit of these roles. And here's how you should use these valuable resources, staff resources that you have in your buildings.
That's important. That's important. Give you the tools so that you can provide the support. Thank you, Dr. Harris.
Ms. Early?
All right, good evening, Dr. Dyson. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have a multi-layered question. With the shifting of paying in arrears for employees, how do you and your cabinet feel that this will benefit FCPS and its employees within the next 5 years? And then I went on to say, for example, I fear that this may negatively impact some employees who live paycheck to paycheck. What positive impacts do you see in this endeavor? What prompted the shift, and has FCPS seen an increase in employee departures as a result of this decision?
So I'll start with the last one. You know, we hear what you say last first, right? So I'll go in reverse order and try maybe mix it up a little bit. So the conversation about payment in arrears really is about a business rule that has really hampered our operations in the system. So most neighboring school districts, most school districts do not pay current. They pay in arrears. And so for us, it's a lot of payroll corrections. It's a lot of which was brought to light through audit. We are highly regulated in terms of our processes. And so I don't believe at this time that we've had any specific resignations related to payment in arrears. The board was very clear that they wanted to ensure we had a campaign to make sure, you know, people knew what it meant. There's a whole website about it. It's fcps.org/arrears, where you can really see there's an FAQ about it. So I'll just give a little bit. You know, when we get audited, they're looking for fidelity in how we report time and attendance. And so when we pay current, we have to stop any hiring processes at least twice a month to ensure that we can get payroll done, because we can't do both at the same time. We can't onboard somebody until we've done other processes. So on the back end, it really is a business rule that's better for the system in a long run in terms of operational efficiency and operational excellence. And I believe that was the reason we tried to mitigate any harm to staff by offering sort of that gap pay. And, you know, some people are going to take it and some people are not. But the goal was to try to bring the system up so we can reduce that audit finding that's been there around, you know, the errors in our time and attendance. I do hope that we've been advertising now since October 2023. And so I hope that, February of 2023, we started the videos, I think, in late October. So I do hope that staff feel comfortable talking to HR about their specific circumstance. And while we may not be able to give a monetary reward or monetary solution to everyone, we can help people process, you know, what's the best thing to do in order to, you know, mitigate any financial harm. I mean, you know, all of us are going to have to participate in this. And so it really was trying to bring our business operations up to the 21st century. And this is a one-time hit. It will not happen again, but we have to do it to convert to the payment in arrears.
Thank you so much. I believe that completely answered everything, and it does help to enlighten the situation, and something we'll definitely be able to share with our colleagues. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Denise Hicks Brown.
Hello, Dr. Dyson. I am a community member. I have children that are in the Governor Thomas Johnson area. And that's my function. Oh, and as co-chair on the committee. That little thing. The question that I have is kind of broad. I know that there are a lot of things that the equity department would like to do. There are many things that they've gotten started that could lead to bigger and better things that could happen, things that could be done, ways that we could look at things, approaches, etc. But there's just not enough staff. Are there any plans to expand the equity office in any way, or to find some way, any way to sort of add more hands to do the work?
So we thought about that a lot. Last spring, we did a realignment and brought the equity office in alignment with the Office of Organizational Development. And the reason for that was to sort of capitalize on the resources that are within the OOD, the Office of Organizational Development, and for them to do that work together. And the hope was that as they do that work together, then you multiply. Of course, I would love to be able to add specifically to the equity office because the work they do is so rich. I mean, I happened to be at Brunswick High School. I think it was December, and there was a student with Voices session going on. It was powerful to listen to our students and to have staff hear from our students about how they show up at school and their sense of belonging or lack thereof. So I know the power of their work, the collaboration with multiple offices, doing curriculum reviews to make sure the curriculum reflects, our student demographics, and working with HR, so that we have reduced our biases as we're hiring, bringing people into the system. So I absolutely understand their work. But I think it's even more powerful with the Office of Organizational Development, now EOD, because together they're able to, with an equity lens, onboard our teachers, our new teachers, our conditional teachers. They're able to train our equity representatives. They're able to work across multiple offices in a way that they couldn't before. And they can maximize resources that before were just in a single office. Now they're together and they can lift the work together. So trying to be strategic with our resources, knowing that they're limited, but also maximizing the expertise that's in the Office of Organizational Development, pairing them with equity. I feel like we're going to be able to accomplish so much more until we have an opportunity to expand on both sides, really. We have about 900 teachers between the years of between 1 and 3 years. That alone is no easy feat, but it's exciting to think about their exposure to what we believe about equity. Policy 117, Regulation 117, at the outset. They're going to be just great flowers in our buildings, and so I'm excited about that.
And I'd like to, just to add to that, because part of our strategy also has been to make sure that every other department in FCPS is equipped to focus on and do the work of equity. And so Scott Murphy mentioned earlier about the June board meeting where he'll be talking about instructional equity. Well, the beauty of that is that even though part of my team is a part of that, that is led by the curriculum department, because every single department has a responsibility to be equity driven and evidence informed. We did the training. Dr. Dyson laid out the expectations, and through continual work, now departments and teams are taking that work on. And so that is a beautiful thing. There's always going to be a need for an equity department. Always going to be a need to make sure that our students and our staff are lifted and that they have a sense of belonging and everything. But we also recognize that the equity department can't do the work alone. And so that's just been the beauty of our approach as we've gone throughout these past few years. So, I saw a hand from our senior scholar, Chadalu. I think she was next. She was one of our award winners last week. Just so proud of her. I'm sorry, Dr. Bell. I just need to lift that up myself. So proud of Janali.
Yes.
Thank you. As as Dr. Harris said, I'm currently currently a senior at Urbana High School.
Yay.
As I don't know what's wrong with my lights. As a senior, a lot of my focus and a lot of my interest is on the role of students when it comes to the relationship between equity and how we're making sure that students are getting equitable treatment within school systems. And I just wanted to ask about what the board is doing specifically concerning college preparedness, college readiness, and equity, because there are a lot of college preparedness tools or classes, things like AP classes, IB classes, but as a student, I can see that those tend to not, or like students, they don't tend to be distributed in an equitable manner, and they don't tend to be as accessible to all students. So I was wondering what the board was doing to make college preparedness classes or college readiness classes more equitable overall.
Thank you for the question. I can start. I don't know if Ms. Gallagher wanted to join in, but I can start. First, and some of my colleagues here. So we have the blueprint for Maryland's future. And the blueprint just, there's a pillar that talks about being college and career ready by 10th grade. And so, you know, one of the pathways is college and the other is career ready. And so I think for us in Frederick, we've done a great job with access and opportunities for our students of color who are experiencing dual enrollment, early open campus or early college. We have data to show that, but your point is well taken. And so one of the visions that I had was for us to simplify and publicize. I always say, you know, what I want is for when parents enroll children in pre-K, that you have enrollment on one side, and on the other side, you have the pathway, right? What you need to do at each interval. So the team who has, Mr. Murphy, you have to help me, which pillar, designed the learning journey. And it's a pictorial representation of all the milestones that have to happen so that our children, all of them, will have access to rigorous curriculum, will be reading by, you know, grade 2, grade 3, ready for advanced academics at grades 4 and 5, and then ready for middle school, ready, and then CCR ready by 10th grade. And we put the milestones in there, and there's links to all of the key performance indicators or the data sets that we're collecting. My goal is for every parent to look at that, every school to share that with that learning journey with parents, so that parents will know, in order to have my child ready, they have to have certain reading skills, math skills, that will open the door, whether they want to go to college or they want to be career ready. But to your point, we have to do a better job of pulling in our families who may not, who may want to know, but may not know how to access the information, or may not have the time because they have to work or they have to tend to other things. So we do need to do better in that area. But the learning journey was one tool to help us get a little bit closer to ensuring all of our students are ready for college or career by 10th grade and can access those rigorous courses.
Thank you so much.
And Dr. Dyson, thank you. Dalu, I just dropped in the chat the learning journey graphic that Dr. Dyson was referring to. And just to underscore what she said, the pillar 3 of the blueprint is all about college and career readiness. And it's just important to point out, as Dr. Dyson did, that's not just a high school thing. That begins in pre-K and goes all the way through, not just high school, but beyond. And the ultimate goal really is not just preparing students for college, but other career paths, other options, other opportunities, and really to thrive in the world. So college, 4-year college courses in high school is one option. But just as equally important are other career paths that, you know, we not only promote and have in our career programs, but also work closely with FCC. So our hope and our vision is that, not just in high school students, but students much younger than that, see all of the options as they think about their individualized, personalized learning journey.
And
Can I make one more point? What's not lost on me is part of the equity work where we have to create the conditions for children to have confidence in themselves that they can do it. And that is my hope, that every child of color understands, no matter what their background or where they came from, that they have the same opportunity, and they need at least one person to believe in them and to instill efficacy and confidence in them, to know that they can at least try an honors course. They can at least try an accelerated course, at least try an AP course, and then we'll be there to help them along the way.
And I just wanted to add that the outcomes, or like the learning pathways, I'm pretty sure it was introduced to us at the last forum. And at the last forum, I asked about it because it was very interesting to me personally, because it was the first time I had seen, the pathways laid out so distinctly in such a distinct manner. So it's nice to see that not only has like the pathway sort of been built, but now it's a tool that we can use and reference back to. So thank you. I feel like that was like a very great answer to my overall
question.
Okay, I'd like to take this moment. I did have, looks like a community member that was trying to ask a question. Unfortunately, the Q&A is only for the members of the Racial Equity Committee. However, if you do want to share public comment, we would invite you to send one in, as this is our last meeting for the year. So I want to make sure that, I think it's Edwina, we don't want to slight you. I just wanted to make sure that that point was stressed and understood. Do I have any other committee members? Thank you. Do I have any other committee members who'd like to ask Dr. Dyson a question at this time? Well, I would like to, let me see who is this. Artie has another question, so I'll let Artie go before I make my comments.
So yes, I was just going to go back to this, and I know you have intertwined the just answers to the budget cuts and programs throughout our discussion today. So I will just propose one last question. An educator reached out to me yesterday, and not with the understanding of this meeting taking place, but just as a concerned educator about because of the proposed budget cuts, how that's going to affect the music program at FCPS, really reducing the teachers that are available from, it's a 50% reduction. I think it's 14 teachers currently for 34 schools. That would then cut to 7 teachers for 34 schools. And I think I just wanted to get from your perspective, I think that type of cut, especially for all students, but students of color, especially because I didn't have the opportunity to play instruments growing up just because it was an added cost. And so that wasn't something that we were able to afford. However, now being a parent, a community member with a child in public school, I am able to afford it. But I am also thinking about those parents that, are still unable to afford outside of the school program. What is your proposal here with the budget cuts affecting the music program, and how that will affect students of color, all students, but specifically students of color that, probably may never have an opportunity to play music or an instrument. It is just a costly activity if you're doing it outside of the school system.
Mm-hmm. So I do think that, and I know from being a principal that music can be a gateway. It's a game changer for many students of color, students who have behavioral challenges seem to thrive in the arts environment. And as Ms. Gallagher stated before, we have to explore every avenue, and we also are creating impact statements about those. So, there's instrumental music, there's general music. There's 2 opportunities in elementary school to experience music. And so I don't feel good about any recommendations that we have to bring forward, but they are just recommendations. And we know that, you know, any recommendation we make is going to negatively impact a group of students or, and that's not our goal. I don't feel good about any of them. I must be frank with you about that. But when we nibble at edges, we have to nibble at many edges to make recommendations to close a nearly $50 million gap. And that's just one recommendation that is coming before the board, and the board will discuss all of them. But I do agree with you in principle. It's just a very hard thing when we don't really have a fat budget. And so we are trying to figure out how to make recommendations and look into some of the areas that we were asked to look into and still satisfy this mandate that are called Blueprint. And, you know, we were asked at County Council at a hearing a couple of weeks ago, you know, what happens if you don't get to $60,000 salary? What happens if you don't have, you know, meet the criteria for the CCR ready? What happens? Well, what happens is we could lose 25% of our state aid. And so we can't afford to do that. And we want to service all our children. So that's a long answer to say, I agree with you. These are hard recommendations that we're trying to bring before the board. Ultimately, they will have to grapple with them all so we can have a balanced budget on June 30th. That's required by law. And so I think, as I said in my comments last week at the board meeting, we are going to feel it in every facet of the organization. We are. But at this time, we are just trying to figure out, and we are bound by some negotiated agreements. So some conversations have to happen because, you know, we have to let people know and plan for whatever the board decides. So I would just say that nothing's been decided. We are looking at many things, and all of them are valuable to us and to our students. So, you know, I don't know even what our next year is going to look like. The funding picture doesn't look great. And so these are just hard decisions we have to make. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but they're just going to be hard decisions all the way around.
Thank you, Dr. Dyson.
Katie?
I apologize, Dr. Dyson. I just have one more question for you along those lines. I was trying to understand a little bit more how, and maybe there's other resources I need to look at, how, for example, it works from like the state superintendent perspective, because I was wondering, like, if the state requires these particular mandates so that we don't lose funding, like Blueprint and everything, but there isn't additional funding by the state. You know, I don't know how counties are able to put it together with them trying to manage their budgets across the state, and then to hear that there may be an even more drastic impact by losing more additional funding is just really, it's just really devastating to hear. So
we're going to do our best. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. We're going to do our best. We will not put our system in a situation, or the board in a situation where we would be there. So, I mean, but at the same time, the Blueprint is under legislation, right? And so certain monies were given, and the rest, you know, the Accountability and Implementation Board for Blueprint says you have to figure it out. The goal of Blueprint is to transform education. And so we can't do business the same. That's what we hear all the time. I mean, I think almost every county is grappling with the same thing, trying to meet demands of the Blueprint and still service all these areas like instrument music, world language, all those other areas that we enjoy and our kids need, our students need to be successful, to be well-rounded, to address the whole child. that are not contained in the blueprint, we still want to meet them. There's a couple of things going on at the same time. So we have the legislation, which is really under the governor to implement blueprint with fidelity. There is some funding that we get towards dual enrollment, but not all. Some funding we get for pre-K tier 1, but pre-K tier 2 now we don't. We have to pay for ourselves in order to have a count, right, for next year. And then at the same time, for Frederick County, where we get money from the state and the local share. At the same time, the state uses their formula to say they use a wealth equalizer. That wealth equalizer is what's used to determine what the state share is and what the local share should be for maintenance of effort, right? So that's funding you for the students you had as of September 30th, the year prior. So we're going to get funded next year for the students we had on September 30th, 2023. Any students you get after that, we pay for. And so then the wealth equalizer, though, is what kind of determines the local share. And so the state saying based on their wealth equalizer, so we have blueprint, the wealth equalizer to determine our maintenance of effort is almost, it's saying that Frederick County is getting richer, but we don't see it, right, in the revenue. So that's where you get sort of the, how much do we get? And that's just a product of the formulas. And so we have to figure out how best to work within that. And it is, to me, at the fundamentally, what's a challenge is the traditional age-old maintenance of effort formula. It's, it's a lagging formula. So, we don't get money for the students that we that enrolled after September 30th until next year. And so it just kind of, it's a lot of formulas, and then you have the mandate, and we're going to do what's right for our students to the best of our ability and try to take care of our staff. And
Thank you so much.
Superintendent just got here. I mean, so I think she is trying to wrap her head around all of it. I see her trying to be supportive and help. Mr. Ike Leggett, who is one of the executive directors or chairs of the AIB, he's been listening, and they've been flexible, like when it comes to what the districts pay for. There's new guidance on the table. So I think in the long run, it will help us some. So we just have to all be partners. And then as the superintendent, the steward of the system, I've tried to be honest in all the spaces I've been in. Like, this is going to kill systems if we don't slow down a little bit. If we're going to, sort of get rid of things that have been working in order to meet these mandates. And so, we get met with resistance sometimes, but sometimes we keep pushing and we get a little more back. So I'm hopeful that we'll try to figure out a way to move forward in the future. We just have to really get through this year and, examine. We're going to debrief, after the budget's passed. We'll debrief and figure out how we can move forward in a more positive way where we won't have to make so many cuts.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Dyson, I'd like to respect your time. I know you have to leave us by 7 and it's almost 7 o'clock.
Yes.
I just wanted to share a story with the committee, if I could, about Dr. Dyson. And so I know that oftentimes you don't hear the thank yous, and we really appreciate the work that you do. And it's very, very hard. And someone always has a complaint or a story to share that's not pleasant. Well, today I had the opportunity to actually watch Dr. Dyson stand on stage at Walkersville High School. She didn't even know I was watching. I was watching from the back. And there were two students.
I wonder where you were.
I was watching from the back. And then because I'm test coordinator, so I had to stop for a minute. So there were two students who, there was an incident in our pool, and they were able to share in saving a life. And Dr. Dyson came over, and there was a whole host of people standing on stage, and the kids didn't know. They walked in, they were so surprised. It was a lot of applause and a lot of well wishes. And the one thing that stuck with me before I left the auditorium was when you looked over at the principal and said, "This is the best part of my job. I love this part of my job." Right? And it made me think that maybe, you're not hearing enough of thank you for the 17 and 18-hour days that you're working. Thank you for the long commutes. Thank you for just being dedicated and open and just able to, on behalf of, thank you for all the hard work that you do. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow about some of the things that we'll be doing. But I just want you to know that in all of the hustle and bustle and all the meetings and all of this and that and the go and the goes, that there are people who notice what you do. We care about what you do, and we thank you for the work that you do. So
thank you for filling my bucket. I do really love what I do, and I love who I do it for. And it's always a joy to be in a school. Always a joy.
Absolutely.
Thank you for this time. I hope I'm able to come back and be in person with you. This is the best discussion, when we can have dialogue back and forth, and I can hear from you what's working and what's on your mind, but also share a little bit of, how I feel about this system and where it's my home. And I have great plans for us to do great things together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dr. Dyson. Have a good night.
Okay. Next on our agenda is just the updates, and you all heard from our community forum. The information that the senior staff presented was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. It was so powerful to hear the work that we're doing, and the work continues. So it's not it doesn't stop. We're planting, as Denise would say, we're planting the seeds to a tree that we may never see. But at the end of the day, just knowing that we have folks that are really committed and, to make sure that we do this work. And from what I'm seeing in, nearby districts, we're definitely above where our colleagues are around in neighboring counties with respect to our racial equity work. So congratulations. And this really is for Dr. Harris and Dr. Artis and Scott Murphy. You all did a phenomenal job. All I did was get a place. Hopefully, as a committee, we need to think about where we're going with this forum moving forward. I would love to have seen it attended much better. There was a lot of work put in to engage our community. However, there was not a lot of community there. So hopefully moving forward, we will okay. As you all know, we have to look at some new members for our committee. So I am asking for at least 3 people to be part of the new member subcommittee. So if you're interested, please raise your hand so I can note it in the minutes. And then I will forward you the information of how, and I will be on that committee, but forward you the information on how we go about choosing new members. So I see Monique, I see Meredith, I see Denise. Okay, I have way more than we need, so this is wonderful. So let me just go ahead. Monique, Denise, Kathy, and Meredith. Okay. That's what we have. So I want to give, at this time, I definitely want to say thank you to everyone on this committee. We have my vision this year was to make sure that we had collaborative conversations, that we were really educated in the work. And this is like the year 1 of a 2-year appointment for me. but I think it's really important to say, I want to close with gratitude and say thank you for all of your work and all of the time that you have dedicated and volunteered and given up for this cause in Frederick County. This is very necessary work. Although we are really doing a lot of things here in Frederick, we still have so much work to do. So I just wanted to thank everybody for offering their time. And I'm going to be asking for some more time, looking for we're going to be breaking out of some subcommittees, looking at SOCA. I had an opportunity to sit down with Ms. Early and Fasayo and look at the new membership for SOCA. We were able to appoint a new leadership. So now what we're going to be doing is working on getting them trained for the summer, working with, still have some grant money that we spend. So we want to do that with training our new members and kicking our year off. There are some complications that I've spoken to Ms. Gallagher about, but we people that were chosen for leadership our committee. Uh-oh.
Dr. Bell, I think you're breaking up. Oh, she did. She just messaged me. She lost connection. So I'm hoping she'll be back in a moment and can reshare.
Yeah. Okay, back.
It seems like you're still breaking up, at least on my end.
But I wanted to make sure that I highlight our young people.
Maybe if you turn your camera off, that may help. Okay, she does want to highlight the all the students that have been helpful and part of this committee, along with part of SOCA, that have been giving of their time and their dedication. And I'm going to turn it over to Denise for a moment, if you want to go ahead and take over while Dr. Bell is trying to get the connection back.
I want to say my own thank yous to a couple special shout outs for people who have kind of gone above and beyond all year. Sabrina and Camille, there has been so much stuff that they have done that you had no idea they were doing because the rest of us were not able to. Stuff got forgotten, fell through the cracks, whatever. Last minute we realized we needed to add or do something, or just making sure that they're keeping us honest, meaning mostly me, but I can own that. But I wanted to give a special shout out to the two of them, and in general to this committee for just being so engaged and involved. It has been a pleasure. I look forward to those of you that are going to be continuing on the committee, and you know, if you didn't feel like you were that involved this year, get more involved next year. But honestly, we've had some wonderful discussions and some wonderful engagement and some great feedback from all of you. So it has been a pleasure, and I just wanted to thank all of you, and especially Dr. Harris and his office, Dr. Artis, and Scott Murphy. Thank you so much for your transparency and being so willing to just help us. I feel like we have actually worked sort of like as a partnership this year. I would love to see that continue. So, you know, with that, I'm now just gushing, so I'll stop. But I just wanted to thank all of you. I feel like it's been a great year, and I look forward to us continuing, even if we may have felt like we didn't do much that actually has, tangible results. We actually have. So I just want to assure you all that we all are seeing what's happening. It's good. It's in the right direction. And we want to keep doing that. And thank you for being here for that.
And for our members who are leaving us, we say thank you, best wishes, and Godspeed. We will definitely miss you. Please keep in touch. Don't be a stranger.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Or any other comments, I guess? Those would be the next two things.
So
I move to
moved
adjourn.
for the adjournment.
You mean second? Sorry.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Thank you. All right, so is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at
I
this
move
time?
to. I move to adjourn. Meredith seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carried.
Is there a second? All right, well, that being said,
Motion.
Now I'm ready to file an opposition to the motion. It is time, 7:08. The meeting is over. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Bye, everybody.